everybody, welcome to another edition of the Vinyl Fetish Club. We're up here on the Vinyl Addict with another addict, I guess it's both, with another edition of what we're calling the 100 albums that matter, 100 vinyl albums that really need to be in your record collection. For mixing up a little bit for the cocktail of choice tonight, this is a little drink we discovered in a bar in Kingman, Arizona called the Cowboy Colada. And what it is, it's just half Fireball cinnamon whiskey. Remember when that was all the fad? And the other half is something called rum chata, like mother's milk. Especially if there's a Mexican in the house. I thought that would be useful because we're going to be talking a little bit about ambient music and Brain Eno. This is a record that probably isn't in your collection. The album we're discussing tonight is a kind of a classic on another level. Brain Eno's Music for Airports, Ambient #1, Music for Airports, came out in September of 1978 and really kind of starts the ambient music trend. It's not necessarily the first ambient record that was ever made, but the first sort of popular one. Brain Eno had been a sort of a pioneer in electronic music and the glam rock. He was one of the founding members of Roxy Music, and if you ever see what Eno looked like on that first Roxy Music record, this album came right after his Before and After Science album. Before and After Science was a record that where he was still doing the kind of poppy music, but it hinted at the more pastoral ambient music on side 2 of that record, and partially it's because he was working on Ambient 1 the same time he was working on Before and After Science. There's a song on Before and After Science called King's Lead Hat, which is an anagram for Talking Heads, a band that he saw when they were touring England that he ended up producing. Their next album, more songs about buildings and food, and I think the next 2 albums after that, he also, after that, was producing Devo, their first album. So he was really, in the music world and kind of the new music world. And this record was born because he was waiting for a plane in Cologne, Germany, and just sort of stressed out and wanted to write a musical landscape for what music in an airport should sound like. So what we get on this album is not the Eno where he sings songs and catchy riffs and things like that. You get mood pieces. There's only 4 songs on this album. 1-1, 1-2, and 2-1-2, 2-2 on side 2, that are just piano loops. It's just him, a couple vocalists, a little synthesizer, and this mellow music that really slows everything down. I discovered this my freshman year in college when I was working at Turtles Records, and just fell in love with it because my life was so stressful, and this record really slowed things down. And my freshman roommate Andy Ebert would call this album music that you can do nothing to, and I think that's sort of the idea, to create a sort of soundscape that takes you away from all the energetic power craziness that we have. In fact, in 2018 I was doing a lot of traveling around the world. I was going to the Middle East and Scandinavia and doing a lot of changing of planes in Chicago, and I was passing through O'Hare Airport, and they have these long tunnels that run from concourse to concourse, and I was in one of these deep tunnels with all these art pieces around me and moving sidewalks, and they were playing Music for Airports over the speaker system. Comes out in 1978, it's playing in an airport in 2018, and of course nobody got it. There might have been every 1 in 100 people who knew something about Brain Eno was like, wait, this is Music for Airports. After this album came out, he produced the next album, which was another ambient music album called Discreet Music, which really sort of set the stage for the work that he would be doing with David Bowie in Berlin, Germany, on the sort of the Berlin trilogy that started with the Low album and Heroes and Lodger, and bringing this sort of electronic ambient feeling to Bowie's work, to David Bowie's work. This record really starts off something that's quite common now. If you go on Spotify, there's thousands of ambient music playlists. There's thousands of sets and types of music that are meant to kind of transport you away from your busy life, especially if you live in a city. And it starts a trend of music designed for a specific purpose. to relax you and to slow you down. And so this is one of the things we can think about what Eno gives us besides a genre. And of course, Eno goes on to do a lot of great work. In the 80s, he's working with U2 on all those great U2 albums. That was the one time, I've never met Brian Eno, but I stood next to him at Slane Castle in Dublin, Ireland. That's Brian Eno, the music for airports guy. Still making music to this day, making incredible art installations around these themes of slowing things down. And it brings up an issue about our culture. Why isn't music like this more popular? Well, if you think about American culture, you know, we try to bring a little sociological relevance to each of these albums we're talking about. We have a very fast-paced culture. We don't slow down. In sociology, we talk a lot about values and value orientations, and that we have orientations around activity. You know, you want to be becoming something, like a college student becoming, you know, a college graduate, maybe going to law school, you're becoming something. We can have a being orientation where we're focused on where we are in the moment, or we can have a doing orientation, just the notion of being active. And we have a culture where you're always supposed to be doing something. You can't waste any time. And we even think about time as money. You know, we invest time, we waste time, we spend time like money, we put time in the bank. I mean, time is money, time is money. I mean, that's the way we think about time, and it's very hard for us in our culture to stop and do nothing and to be reflective. Or think about the yogi on the mountain, right, contemplating his navel. We can't do that. My yoga class at the gym before COVID, the last 5 minutes are spent on what's called corpse pose, where you're just lying on your mat relaxing and meditating, and half the class will just get up and go get on the Stairmaster, because that's 5 minutes so they could be doing some working out. It is really hard for us to slow down. So one of the things that intersects here is the Beatles. Everything goes back to the Beatles at some point. In 1967, the Beatles discover the power of transcendental meditation when they start studying with the famous yogi Maharishi. And then in early 68, they go off to India and spend a month with him in an ashram just meditating, which is where they wrote all the great songs that became the White Album. And Paul and Ringo still practice daily meditation as a way of slowing things down and being mindful. So a month ago, I started a daily meditation practice, 10 minutes every day in the backyard or in the living room. Andy does it too. And the idea of meditation is, how do we get into our heads, not out of our heads, but into our heads enough to be able to think about what we're thinking? Well, I have no time to think about what we're thinking, because we're always thinking about the next thing, and we're not thinking, why am I thinking that, or why am I feeling that way? So when you meditate, the goal is kind of like when listening to this music, you're slowing things down, and you're focused on your breath, and that's the thing that anchors you. And then you can see, why do I feel this way? Why am I having this reaction? Are these the thoughts that I want to have? Maybe I want to think about something else. I mean, the ultimate truth is the past is gone, and you can't do anything about it. So there's no point in worrying about something that you did in the past or something that happened in the past. The future hasn't happened yet. You can set things up to hope it goes the way that you want, but it's totally unpredictable. All you've got is the present. So to spend 10 minutes focusing on your breath and letting the thoughts that go through drift right on by allows you to calm your brain, because we don't, like this music, we don't have a lot of opportunities to just be calm. And that's what the ambient music series that Eno did is all about, being calm. In fact, there was an Ambient 2. He's had a couple of these records named Ambient. Ambient 2 was called Plateau of Mirror, came out in 1980, was done with the great Harold Budd, who just died last December of COVID. But, you know, there are several of these ambient-themed records that just slow things down. So what I thought we'd do in this video, because it's something that I do every day and has brought a lot of opportunities for my life of reflection and not making the same mistakes over and over again, is do a short meditation. We're not going to do a 10-minute meditation. We're going to do a 10-second meditation. And what I want you to do is just focus on thinking about your breathing. Thinking about the 4 steps of the breath. Inhale, stop, exhale, stop. Right? That's 4 steps. Inhale, stop, exhale, stop. Think about the breath as a journey. The inhale is going out somewhere, and the exhale is coming back home. And when thoughts pop into your head, just think of them as clouds floating by. I mean, there was a great quote from a professor at Emory University who did a study of the meaning of Brain Eno's music for airports. And his famous quote was, the music on this album holds together no better or worse than the cloud. So we're going to think of a cloud that comes in. Don't get upset if you're like, oh, I got to think about, what I'm going to make for breakfast, or I got to think about some. So let it go and come back to the breathing. Okay, so we're going to do this for 10 seconds. Don't worry about the time. I'll keep track of the time, but we often have no opportunities for stillness, for calm, and to just be in our head, calming ourselves down and slowing things down. So you ready? We're going to do a 10-minute meditation. And I want you to find a comfortable pose, sitting down wherever you are. If you want to cross your legs, crisscross applesauce style, as my daughter says, that's fine. But what I want you to do is just, for a bit, I just want you to close your eyes. Ready? Okay, I'll close your eyes, and I'll keep track of the time. And we're going to sit together for 10 seconds and think about your breath. And if your mind wanders, come back to your breath and just think about your breath. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Eyes closed. And start feeling yourself in the room. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. Hard, or 10 seconds. There's a lot of you that are watching. I saw you who didn't even close your eyes because, why, you might miss something. Try doing that for 10 minutes, and try doing that 10 minutes a day, and I guarantee it will change your life. So the ambient music scene that emerged in the wake of Eno's late 70s records really created a new way of thinking about music, not as entertainment or telling a story, but creating a space, a mental space, by which you can calm yourself. And you can see your thoughts, and you can explore your thoughts. You can practice gratitude, you can practice mindfulness, you can practice a kind of forgiveness of yourself. And that all starts with this wonderful Brain Eno record. It's a strange record. It's not one that you would hear on the radio. I don't think anybody's covered any of the songs on this album, on their albums. But it is something that when you hear, will change you. In fact, on some of these ambient records, he even tells you how to set up your speakers to best have the surround sound effect of this looping piano melody. Hugely influential, including on pop records, YouTube records, and things like that. But just go on Spotify and see the whole genre of ambient collections. Okay, so I challenge you this week to find some calmness, find a space where you can do nothing. Not easy in our culture, but Brain Eno kind of opened the door for us to be able to have a soundtrack to do that too. Ambient #1, Music for Airports, 1978. Such a great record. So next week we're going to go in a really opposite direction from ambient music. We're going to do Metallica's And Justice for All, the double 1988 album that is about as unambient as you get. But until then, this record, it would really make a great addition to your collection. It changed my life. It'll change yours. This record matters. This music matters. You matter. So let's talk about it.